For the opportunity to join you this morning, and I realize that I'm the only thing that between you and lunch, so I'll try to be brief, and otherwise I know what may happen. But again, it's a real pleasure. If I may give you a brief story. I had the privilege of serving as governor between 2009 and 2012. Halfway through my term, I realized who I was fighting. I was fighting the government, the establishment, so much to the chagrin of my team and a couple of my co-workers are here and they're helping me in the foundation. I gave an interview to the main newspaper that, hated freedom and freedom lovers, and I said, you know what, I don't trust government, and after 2 years of being the governor, I trust it less. And I warn people that they should not trust government, and I'm a libertarian. Made the front page of the newspapers, and it sent the right message to everyone that was trying to stop what we were doing here. But anyhow, it's a true story, and I wish I had that front page because I'm so proud of that front page in that newspaper. I've gone back to practice law. I've done what I think our founding fathers wanted everyone that's serving government for a little while to do, just go back to what they were doing before. And that's what I do. I'm a corporate lawyer, and I travel a lot. I do work in Spain and Latin America, based in DC, but I'm here almost every month. And we have a foundation here. And the foundation essentially is a free market. We promote self-reliance, growth. It's called Crece, which in English means growth. And what we are promoting are free market economy policies and growth, and it's the only way to grow. And that's our motto. And of course, we want to make sure that students, we're based at a private university here, that students understand that there's a philosophical basis for what we are promoting. It's not just out of a whim that we came up with it. Puerto Rico is going through very challenging times, though, and that's exactly why we need to promote freedom and self-reliance and pro-growth policies. So even more so now, Puerto Rico has been, many people say colony, territory, whatever you want to call it, first from Spain, and now we are part of the U.S. We're proud to be American citizens. We have been American citizens for a full century. Many people don't know that. But our growth is really has been hampered by a lot of policies that Congress oftentimes feels that all size fit all policies make sense and try to impose some of those policies. And in my view, they kill the opportunity for growth. When I look, this is the cost of payroll in the government in Puerto Rico, and how starting in the year 2000, it went up from about $3.3 billion all the way to $5.3 billion. That's a 61% increase in just 8 years. I became governor here. We brought it down by 33% in 4 years. Yes, I needed a security detail, but we did it. And the bottom line here is that what we did, because some people try to portray people that feel like us as heartless and that we have, we don't care about people. We actually had seed money for every single person that would not be working for the government. Seed money to either go back to school so that he or she could get a new education and so that he or she could do something else with his or her life. Seed money for equity for a new business, so that if they wanted to create a new business, they will have that seed money and it was theirs, they didn't have to repay it. Or money for moving somewhere else in the island or whatever in the world they wanted to move. Because again, if you believe in freedom, it's total complete freedom. And a good number of people actually, we have some testimonials that we have used in the past of people that said, you know what, that changed my life. Tell you a story. I'm sorry, I like to tell stories. One night we were at a party in DC, and this woman kept looking at me. Then at the end of the evening, she asked for a picture. She happened to be from Puerto Rico. She was a teacher in Virginia. So I said, of course. So took a picture, everything else, and she said, "You fired me." And I'm so thankful because you changed my life. And I have grown as a person, as a professional. And now here in Virginia, because she has a child that needed some medical attention that she could only get there. But she said, I mean it. I will frame this picture because you changed my life. You opened my mind to what could be done if I was let free. So, I didn't need a security detail that evening, but that's what happened. As, if I may, also. Going back here, for a few years after I left office here, payroll stayed constant and then started going up again, which is a concern that I do have. And not just payroll, it's everything else. By the way, that was only 50% of their cost. We slashed our budget by 20%. And only half of that 20% was payroll. We were also slashing expenses in other areas that required to change that. Sorry, I'm trying to get a hold. Okay. Here, again, is our bond rating. And this is the curve of the economic activity index that actually has almost complete correlation with GDP growth. This starts in the year 2000, and you see how the bond rating started going down. And then way before the financial crisis, the economy in Puerto Rico started tanking. Okay, we're talking 04, 05, all throughout those years. And then here is when the meltdown, global financial meltdown occurred between 08 and 09. And that's exactly when I took office. And you can see here how that curve started going up. And actually, we went into positive territory in my last couple of years, and how our bond rating went up. Actually, in the case of Standard & Poor's, the first time that the bond rating went up in 27 years. That allowed us to start refinancing our debt under much better terms and conditions. So essentially, that's what was happening. After that, the economy has been in negative territory, and actually, all of this is negative territory, even though there was a slight curve going up. And you see how the bond rating actually was lost, and the rest is history. Still, we have a lower income per capita than the rest of the nation. However, these numbers are skewed. After we left office, because one thing we did was we lowered expenses, but we lowered at the same time, we lowered our taxes, and individual and corporate taxes, and simplified those taxes. So if you go back and look at this curve again, when the economy was going up, and these are official numbers, but from the GDP here, that's exactly when we lowered taxes, corporate and individual taxes. What happened here is that expenses went up year one by 9.5%, just in 1 year, and taxes went up dramatically. And that's when the economy started tanking. When you raise taxes dramatically, the end result is that a lot of people go on into the black market, and they are not going to report exactly what they are producing. I can tell you that when we lowered our taxes, 100,000 additional taxpayers showed up. Just like that, they were somewhere, and by lowering taxes, they started to pay more taxes. Heavy taxation and deficit spending will impoverish our citizens, and that's I believe in that, and actually generate economic stagnation. And that's exactly what is happening right now here in Puerto Rico. we feel that metrics are important. So one thing we did in our foundation, which we founded after I left office, is that we wanted to create the first economic freedom index. And we're using the same metrics that Heritage Foundation and the Wall Street Journal use for their index. We actually even brought economists working for Heritage to help us in this. We looked at specifically at 4 pillars: rule of law, size of government, regulatory efficiency, and open markets. And not all of that, because we are a territory of the United States, not all of that is under the control of the state government, but there are many areas that are. And we wanted to measure it out of a potential 100 score. We scored 71, which is not ideal. And then we identified areas where we could improve, and we made this public. And that's because, again, we feel that one of our roles as a non-for-profit foundation is to promote ideas that can be implemented easily. And one of them is a register of property. Puerto Rico's register of property ranks 164th out of a potential 188 jurisdictions, just below Algeria. And it takes almost 200 days to register a property here in Puerto Rico. And so that's one area that's simple, that can be handled very easily with technology, essentially. One thing we did when we were reducing the size of our government is that we didn't have an IT platform to provide services. PR.gov was created to provide those services, and actually from your home or your business or wherever you are, you can actually get a lot of the certificates that oftentimes you need, birth certificate, whatever. It makes life a lot easier. Corruption is an area of improvement. And we don't have the corruption that you find in places like Venezuela, Cuba, and other places. But when you impose all these unnecessary steps, requirements, permits, and all these hurdles, sometimes you force people that are going to lose their business, their homes, or whatever, into doing something that they don't necessarily want to do. And so one measure to combat corruption is to impose less regulations, lower the number of permits that you need for any kind of procedure and what have you. And that's exactly what we have been focused on. And the other one is taxes. Actually, we had lowered taxes dramatically. They have gone up, as I mentioned here. And the marginal tax rate for individuals is 33, and for corporations is 39. And then Puerto Rico has the highest sales tax that was raised about a couple of years ago. Highest sales tax in the country. It's 11.5%, which is outrageous and regressive at the same time. And all of that to protect the poor and those that need, supposedly. In terms of government expenditures as a percentage of GDP, we were measuring this, and we will continue to measure this. At this moment, it's close to 28%. And we feel that, again, the more freedom we enjoy in terms of economic freedom, the lower that number will be, and actually will generate a stronger economy and job opportunities for the people. In terms of permits, we are trying, again, using metrics to compare the permitting process in Puerto Rico as it compares to the rest of the world. And at the end, I will talk about two locations, two countries that are doing extremely well in that area. The construction permits, you need 20 in Puerto Rico. The average in the world is 14.5. Days to obtain a permit, pretty much the same level as the rest of the world. It's not necessarily a good way to measure this. And the cost to obtain a permit in Puerto Rico is actually 50% higher than the average in the world as well. But there are opportunities for growth. One is public-private partnerships. And we have had excellent experiences in Puerto Rico with public-private partnerships. And I know there is resistance among some people. Actually, in our case, I can tell you that there was resistance. Two of the main ones that we did was the airport. The Port Authority did not have the financial capability to make the improvements that needed to be made. and to attract additional airlines and what have you. They have done a wonderful job, and on top of that, the Port Authority is one of the few public corporations that is not in financial problems. But there were people picketing and what have you, and I'll tell you one more story that I haven't shared. Airports in the United States you can grant concessions on airports under a law approved by Congress in 1996. But it had never been tested, had never been used until we used it here in Puerto Rico for our main airport. So the FAA bureaucrats had never seen this before, and they were saying, well, how are you going to do this? Well, show them the law of the land, Congress stated this, that could be done in 96. So they came back to our team and said, well, you will have to repay the FAA for every dime that you receive in the passenger fees that we all pay when we buy our tickets. Those funds are used to pay for the airport, the runways, what have you. So we had an impasse and we couldn't move forward with the deal. So I said, bring the FAA people over. So they brought them over. And I did this on purpose. I looked at our team and said, what's the problem? They said, well, they want to charge us for all the passenger fees that we have been collected in the last 20 years, what have you. So I looked at the FAA folks, looked at my team and said, I apologize for what our team is doing. How dare they not understand that they ought to pay you every single dime that was collected if whoever wins the concessions rolls the runways and takes them home. As long as the runways are there, they belong to the passengers, not to you, not to the federal government, not to the state government. It's to the passengers that pay for it, and we will not give you a dime. And I'm calling the Secretary of Transportation in Washington right now to let them know what you're doing. And we were able to move forward. So again, bureaucrats are the same all over. It's not unique to one place or another. It's exactly the same all over the world. As I mentioned, we did the airport, a couple of highways, schools, and there were actually the ferry boats. From here you can see the Culebra and Vieques Islands, which are beautiful. And the ferry boat service, actually we did another experiment. We had them compete, government run and own ferry boats at a much lower payment, a fee, with privately run ferry boats paying more, and the latter were a success because you could actually get day before or days before you could get a reserved seat. You were guaranteed that they were going to leave on time, arrive on time, and so on and so forth, contrary to the government-run ferry boats. So again, it was an experiment. Fortunately, that was undone. But anyway. There are opportunities here, again, to do the ferry service, again, correctional facilities, modernization of even the police precinct stations. We had a program, and we did a number of energy projects, renewable energy projects, again, all based on basic economic policies that actually would generate savings vis-a-vis power generation by the government. We again are very much very close, working closely with the Atlas Network, and we love to use this. And I wanted to talk at the end about the Ukrainian and the Lithuanian examples as to what they've done. In terms of the permits, in Ukraine, they have classified all projects into 5 categories. And if you are in categories 1, 2, 3, which are simple buildings, the process is a lot easier, quicker, and it runs smoothly. Give you an example, warehouses, just notify them that you're building the warehouse. Of course, it's a more complex project, it's a different story, but bottom line here is that they have simplified the process and reduced the number of steps required to obtain a permit. Lithuania is a place I love Lithuania in what they have been doing. And what they eliminated a lot of procedures, and actually were able to slash almost by 40% the time that it would take to obtain a permit. Actually, They went from a ranking, according to the World Bank's Doing Business report, from 18th to the 7th position very quickly. The great thing, and with this I finish, great thing about what has been happening in Lithuania, same thing with their tax policies, is that it was not promoted by the government. It was promoted by a freedom-loving foundation in Lithuania. So it was the private sector that promoted this. It was a foundation called the Lithuanian Free Market Institute that promoted the ideas that are being implemented by the Lithuanian government. So that's an example of how we feel that things ought to be happening. And there are foundations like the one in Lithuania can lead the way to be followed by the government or implemented by the government. And that's, we feel, is a better way to do this. With that, I want to thank you all. Thank you for inviting me. It's a real honor to be among so many people that indeed love liberty and freedom. And we welcome everyone to enjoy everything that Puerto Rico has to offer. Thank you again.